Right, mic test. All right, very good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming down to this workshop. I think part of the Hack and Roll event. So just to give a very quick introduction about myself, my name is Sean here, and I have Lucas here. We are both from TikTok, and we're very happy to be here to be, just conducting this workshop with all of you. But it won't be me talking, but it'll be Lucas most of the time. So just a quick shout out. So this is Lucas here is from our Android messaging team. So he'll be teaching about some of the fundamentals over here. And if you'd like to know more about our opportunities, be it like internships or if you're in your final year looking for full time, we'll be around in the hackathon next weekend, right? Next weekend. So myself will be here, my team will be here to answer any questions that you have. But in the meantime, I'm just going to hand it over to Lucas to take over to conduct this workshop. All right, let's give a round of applause to Lucas, please.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me well. First of all, thanks for joining me today on this Thursday evening. So I will be talking for 2 hours. Please stay until the end. So the talk for today, I'm going to talk about Android fundamentals. I will be splitting the talk into 2 parts. The first one will be a bit theoretic, where I'm going to talk with the slideshow. I'm going to talk about Android, how to build Android application. And the second part, I will be doing some live coding. So I'm going to make an Android application from scratch right in front of you. So if you have Android Studio, or if you don't have the Android Studio, you can download it now. And for the second part, you can try to follow and do it at the same time. So hopefully, if you can follow all the way to the end, you should be able to have a running Android application that you've built at the end of these 2 hours. I know it sounds a bit, maybe a bit too much, but let's see. So, quick introduction for myself. So, my name is Lucas. I'm working at TikTok in the social messaging Android team. So, what does that mean? So, raise your hand who is using TikTok here. Who is a TikTok user? Don't be shy. It's okay. Okay, just a few. Who knows that TikTok has a direct message, instant message feature inside the application? Okay, the same people. Good. I found out that many people know TikTok, but they don't know that you can actually talk to your friend or talk to the creator within the application. And to be able to use this direct message, this is our team. We are working on this. And I'm working on this for Android, for the Android application. So quick background for myself. I'm originally from France, so I'm not a native English speaker. In case you don't understand what I'm saying, or if you're lost, please raise your hand and just tell me that what are you talking about. I'll just repeat or say it in a different way. If you're lost at any point, or if you have any question along the way, you can feel free to ask. No need to wait for the end of the presentation. You can ask anytime you want. So I've graduated with a master's degree from France. The major is architecture and engineering of software. Basically being a software architect. And I have like 7-8 years of Android development experience and 1.5 years at TikTok. All right, enough talking about it. So who has done Android application before? Who already developed some Android application before? Good, no one. Perfect. This is exactly the purpose of this workshop. I'm trying to bring some awareness about Android development. And hopefully you should be interested in it, and maybe you will consider this as your career path. So who has done if I'm not mistaken, you're not in the first year, or some of you are in the first year. So who is considered quite new to programming? Who's quite new to programming? Or just intermediate? Okay. Okay. Who is not listening? Okay. No. So this is your kickstart of your Android development journey. So there is no experience that is required. I'm trying to be like as simple as possible. So today we are going to go through the basic of Android applications. So mostly the container and some basic UI. So at the end of this, we are going to build a very basic Android application with some simple UI, simple input text and button that we can make interactive. Today agenda, so the overview of Android. We have like the activity, which is like the container and the UI component, and that's it. So overview of mobile development. Why you should think about mobile development and why you can consider it as a software engineer. Normally, when you think about software engineer, you will think about like the user, and the user, they used to be mostly on desktop, but that's not the case anymore since 2017. A few years ago, actually, mobile user overtake the desktop user. So if you want to build some application for the user, you should think about mobile first because there is more user on mobile nowadays on desktop. And this is still growing. The average time spent on the mobile is about 3 hours per day. So imagine building application and you have like users spending 3 hours on their mobile, and you can try to grab some minutes or some hours of these 3 hours to spend on your application, and that can be a really good amount of time. There's 6.4 billion smartphone users in the world. Do you know what's the world population? What's the world population? How many people are there on Earth? 8 billion, right? We just reached 8 billion, and there's 6.4 billion smartphone users. So there's still a few billion to reach, but we're going to get there very soon. So imagine a market with 6.4 billion users. You're gonna build some application, maybe for all of them. And I'm pretty sure TikTok is reaching some pretty big amount of users. If you think about mobile, I know for Singapore, mostly people are on iOS. I'm pretty sure maybe all of you. But that's not the case worldwide. Mostly Android is dominating, especially in some market like India, where it's more than 95%. So even though you may have an iOS device in your pocket, Android is still #1 and the major OS for the mobile in the world. So we can reach a very, very large amount of users, and if you build applications for Android, you can reach the #1 mobile users. So I'm just going through some Android background first. Android 1.0 was released in 2008. Now we are Android 13 that was released last year, 2022. Each year they release a new version with some new feature and some new capability. On Android 13, they added a capability to customize the color of the menu, which is phenomenal. You can see now you can change the menu to green. This is very something that everyone wanted. Anyway, with that billion of users and that different manufacturer for Android, which is different from iPhone, which is just made by Apple. It comes with two problems, which if you go to the Android development, people will say, oh, there's like too many devices, there's too many versions to support, it's too troublesome. It's a bit true. And the reason for this fragmentation is because Google is making the Android OS, and they will actually distribute it to the manufacturer like Samsung or Huawei or Oppo. And those manufacturers, they won't install it as it is. They will make some customization. So Samsung will take the OS, the Android OS from Google, and they will do some stuff. We don't know exactly what they are doing. They will do some customization, and they will install it on their Samsung devices. So if you are buying a Samsung Galaxy phone with Android, it's not exactly the Android that was made by Google, the original, but it's one with some extra customization. And as a developer, this can cause some issue. We need to take care about all those different variation, which can be a bit troublesome. So Samsung is the #1 manufacturer, and we have like different version for Android. The reason why Android new version is not adopted immediately is because of tools customization that is done by all the manufacturer. That takes time to do. So when when Google just released Android 13, Samsung need to spend some time to build their own customization again and ship it to their device. And each manufacturer have their own roadmap. So we have a lot of device to support. We have a lot of manufacturer, and we have a lot of Android version to support. But don't worry, we are going to make one application that can run on 95% on the device right after this. So for Android development, we can do native or cross-platform. For native, usually it's what most big tech company will do. For TikTok, we do a lot of native, mostly it's native. Cross-platform, in case you don't know, there's like two frameworks, Flutter and React Native. I think React Native, it was done by Facebook, but it's a bit dying, going down, I'll say. And Flutter is done by Google. It's still quite popular. So cross-platform means I build the application once, and it will work on Android and iOS, or it can even run on desktop. You will think that this may be like fantastic. Like I don't need to build two applications, one for Android, one for iOS. Then why not? Everyone is doing cross-platform. Performance. The answer is performance. The performance is usually very bad. So native is usually the way to go if you want to have a very good user experience and going very deep in the customization. So today we are going to build a native Android application. In case you're doing the hackathon, I suggest you also do a native Android application. If you stay until the end, I will tell you how to win the hackathon. For the Android development tool chain, so if you don't have Android Studio right now, you can try to download it. It's a few GB, so I'm not sure how fast is the Wi-Fi yet. It may take some time, so hopefully it's done by the end of this first part. So for Android application are built in Java or Kotlin. Kotlin is like let's say, a new version of Java, like a new way of doing Java. And Java, to build Java, you need a Java development kit, which is called JDK. And this JDK, everything is included in when you download the Android Studio. And to build Android application, you will have to use the Android SDK, which is a development kit. I'm not sure if everyone knows what an SDK here is. If you want to build application for a platform, let's say you want to build a game for PlayStation. Sony will build a system development kit for the PlayStation to be able to, like, when you use the controller, how to react and to be able to display some stuff and interacting with the menu. So this is the only way to build application or game for the PlayStation. And for Android, you have the Android development kit, and iOS will have the iOS development kit to build application for iPhone. So if you download Android Studio, it will come with everything. So you shouldn't need to worry about this. I see that most people doesn't have Mac, and I'm still surprised. I thought all engineers use Mac, but it's okay. Android Studio should work on both Windows and Mac, so no need to worry. So if you later, I will go through the Android Studio, but just to be familiar, this is what it looks like. It's the code actually is not a major part of the screen. So just to go through quickly, you have like a lot of item at the top to be able to like copy fast and stuff. Then you have like the code, which is one part. You have like the directory tree with, where you can see all your file, and later I will show you where exactly is the code. And here is the debugger. Not sure what this screenshot is showing with the debugger, but then we can see from the code. This is a layout preview. I'll just give you some overview. So here, when we build a layout for Android, we write it in XML. And in this case, XML, so the container is a constraint layout, and I have a button and an image view. So this is the code, and on the right side, I have the preview with my image view, so the image and the button below. I can do some drag and drop about some button. I can try to build my UI without writing any code. It's possible. We are going to do this later. It will be a bit easier, but if you want to go a bit more detailed into the UI, you will need to write the UI from code directly. For Android, Google, they released a new way of doing UI, which is called Compose. It's still pretty new. You will be able to build UI without XML. So I'm going to show you like all the way, or like I mean, it's still very well adopted. For the hackathon, if you want to learn, you can learn the new way, which is called Compose, but I'm not going to cover Compose today because I'm not using it on a daily basis. If you have an Android device, you should be able to run your application on your device directly later. It's very easy. If you don't have an Android device, you can run on the simulator. So later I will show you also how to install the simulator. Now the simulator is has pretty all the feature from the device. And if you are running the M1 laptop, the device will be the simulator will be very fast because you will, this processor will be the same one as the one inside your phone. So there is not much performance issue with the emulator. So you can run your application later on your desktop backend. So let's talk about activity. We are going deeper now into the development. So what is the activity? So when I launch my Android application, I need to launch something. I need to launch a container for my view. And this container in Android is called activity. So I will have something called the main activity, like the first activity to launch. So activity will be the container, and I will define like which view do I want to display. And in this case, like for example, if you launch TikTok, this is the first screen you're going to see. This screen, the UI, is defined probably in XML. And this is entire container, which is an activity. So probably this is like a TikTok main activity kind of thing. And in this activity, I can define the interaction between my view and set up my business logic. For example, I have a button. What happens if I click on the button? I can put this code inside my container. Different components. We have the activity, which is like the container. And one thing for mobile is that the resource is usually very constrained. We don't have much memory. So if I launch my application, let's say it's a music player, I'm going to play the music. If I put my application in background, so my activity, my work container will go to background. If the device needs to claim some memory because now you're browsing some web page and the page is very big, it will try to, the OS will try to see which application is in background and can be stopped or can be killed. And it will try to see, hey, this application that you launched is in background, so I'm going to kill it. Which is okay in most of the case, but if my application is a music player and I started to play the music, I don't want the music to stop because I'm now browsing internet, which is quite resource intensive. So there's a way to do this, to do some like a background operation that will keep running, which is called services. So it's another component for Android. Just mention it here. We are not going to use it later, but it may be very useful for your hackathon if you want to run some stuff in background without the OS to kill your application. Otherwise, you will stop what you're doing. We have a broadcast receiver. This is a global broadcast. For example, if I receive a phone call, the OS will say, hey, you're receiving a phone call, then it will broadcast to everyone, to all the application. And maybe I'm interested in knowing that there is a phone call incoming, and maybe I can intercept the phone call, maybe I can do some custom operation, maybe I can like start a recording or something. Or I can start my own broadcast and say to the other application, hey, I'm doing this, like maybe you guys are interested and like you can react to this. So this is like a global event bus that may be also useful. And the content provider means that I can provide some content. For example, let's say I'm building a phone book. I have a contact list, so I'm building an application that will manage some contact. I can tell the OS that, hey, if anyone wants a contact list, I can provide it. I'm a provider of a contact list, and I have my own database of content that I manage, and I can give it to anyone other application who's interested by using content provider. For today, we are only going to talk about the activity. I'll leave it the rest. If you're interested. So I'm going a bit fast on the way of creating because I'm going to do this live again later. So to create your first activity, this is the Android Studio. This is the ID that we are using. I forgot what ID means exactly. Anyway, this is so we can create a new project, and there's some templates to build application. So we can select like empty activity to container, so it will be an empty container. We can put the project name, so whatever project your Hack&Roll, my awesome project. And you will have the Android Studio. So this is the first thing you will see when you launch. We have like a view tree with all the different folders. So in this case, I have like the TikTok bootcamp, which is the main folder. Inside, I have one module which is for app. I can have multiple modules, but I think for this scale of application, only one module should be enough. So only APP, and I have the source, main, and Java, and the package name. So even if you're using Kotlin, the folder still need to be called Java. But that's okay. I have my main activity. Activity, again, is the container. Main activity means it's the main container. So probably the first one I'm going to launch. And this is the code. So I'm going to go through the code later. And I have the resources, the layout, and the Android manifest. So the Android manifest is I'm defining the metadata of my application. In this case, I define like, this is my application, what is my application name, what is my application icon. So later when I install my application, the Android will scan this file and it will be like, oh, where do I find the icon? Where do I find the name? And then I define the activity. And I define when I tap on the icon, which activity I need to launch. And in this case, I said the activity and I got main and launcher. So I tell the launcher that, hey, if you try to open my application, launch this activity, launch this container first. And the OS will automatically create my activity and the code will be executed. Are you lost so far? Is it too fast, too slow? Okay. Don't fall asleep. Activity main, which this is the UI. So I'll talk about the UI a bit earlier, which is in this case hosted XML. I'm going to talk about the different UI component later. We have in this case, it's just a linear layout, so it means like the items are one below each other with just the text and a button. And the main activity. So yeah, this is what it's going to launch when I start. And in this case, it goes on create, so I just create the container. So what should I do? You should set the content view, so set the view. And the view is the activity main, which is the XML I explained just now. And I can do some interaction, which I'll explain again later. I can find the item in the view, and and I can press play. There's a play button at the top. If you press it, if you set up the simulator, you should compile the application and you should run it on your simulator. This is a bit of fast, but later I'll do it, and you can try to do it at the same time. So activity lifecycle. So we talk about the container, the activity when I launch it. So there is a few methods that will be called. The first one that we mentioned just now is the onCreate. So when the activity, when my container is created, where I just now I set up, hey, which view I want to display. Maybe I can set up like, hey, I want to find this view. Then I change the text. I'll set the business logic for when I click on the button. But the container has a life cycle. So my application, I can launch my application, I can put it in background, I can kill my application, and this comes in the activity lifecycle. So there's a few methods that will be there in the activity. So it's onCreate, which is the one that you need to use to do all your basic setup. Then you have onStart, onResume, and after this is called, this will always be called in the same sequence. And only at that point, the container is visible. So I launch my application, it will start my container, my activity, it will call onCreate, onStart, onResume, and now my content is visible to the user. If I put my application in background, it will call onPause. So it will pause my application, now my application in background. And only later, if you need to kill my application, it will call onStop, onDestroy. But if I just put in background and just go back to my application again, it will pause, resume, pause, resume, pause, resume. Depending if you bring to front and put in background. So the lifecycle is the way you interact with the application. If you put your application in background, you may want to stop some stuff. For example, if you are doing a network call, if I'm going on background, maybe I don't need the network call anymore. I can cancel it. So when you build your application, you need to be like lifecycle aware. Like the user can interact at any point of time with your application. You can be on the loading screen and the user can just kill your application because it just got bored, because it's too slow. So you need to handle all this life cycle. Later in the application, we are going to go very simple life cycle. So don't worry too much about this. So what do we need to, why do we need the activity life cycle? Yeah, to stop some processing that we are doing when it's not necessary anymore. Like if I go to background or if I move to another activity, I can stop, or if I go back to the application, I can resume what I'm doing. For example, at TikTok, I'm doing the direct message, right? So if you're on the chat page, I want to listen for new messages. So if you're in the discussion with me, if you're sending me a message, I want to listen for the new message and show it immediately. But if I receive some other message, I may not be interested. So I'm going to listen to those messages when I'm on this screen. Later, if I put the option in background, maybe I don't care about the message anymore, or it will come in another way. So this listening, I can register and stop the listening based on the life cycle and based on what the user is actually seeing and how is it interacting with the application. Yeah, so this is the onCreate I mentioned. So here all the setup is done in the onCreate, which is okay, which is not a bad way of doing it. So as you can see, the onCreate is the override, so means that the method is defined in the parent class. The parent class here is app-compat activity, which is the application activity for application container. And I can just override the method. If I want, I can override the onResume, the onStart if I want to do some other stuff, or I can override the onDestroy if I want to cancel some of the processing I'm doing. This is a bit more advanced lifecycle where I launch my application, onCreate, onStart, onResume. This is always the same thing. And then my activity is running. And if I press the back button, that if I exit my application, it's going to continue until the application is deployed. And if I press home, actually on Android, if you press back button, it's going to kill your application. But if you press home, it's going to just put it in background. And if you press back and you launch the application again, it will restart everything. But if you press home and launch the application again, it's only going to resume if the OS didn't kill your application in between. There's some different way of ending those button at the bottom, or now there's some gesture that you can do with the swipe on the screen. And we can also go from different activities. So when if you build your application for the hackathon, don't do everything in one activity. You can build multiple activity and launch different activity. Otherwise, you will create a very big blob where the code is all at once. I'm not sure how you're evaluated for the hackathon if they're going to check the code. But if you just have one activity, your code may be very messy because you're going to have a very, very big container with all your business logic inside, which I advise not to do. So you can create multiple activities. Later, I'm going to do 2 activities, and I'm going to show you how to launch the Scrum activity to split the different screen and the different business logic. So the activity has the life cycle, and we need to use it to react based on the user interaction. Intents. So what is intent? We have 2 types of intent, explicit and implicit. Just now I mentioned we can build multiple activity, multiple containers. But how do I launch my second container? How do I launch my second activity? With intent. And for intent, I can say explicit intent means that I'm going to launch another activity, and I told the OS, I want to launch this one, especially. I know this one. I want this one, especially. So it's explicit. I want to launch my second activity class. So this is the way I can do. I build the intent. I put some contexts for the OS, and in this case, I launch my main activity. I can set some flag. I am skipping everything into the flag today because it's overly complicated. This is like if I launch the same activity 2 or 3 times, like what should I do? Should I resume the previous one? So it's overly complicated. So let's just manage the stack about the different activities. So I'm not going too much into detail about this. We'll keep the basic stack of activity. So I launch one new activity, we'll just add it to the activity stack. If I go back, it will remove from the stack and go back to the previous one. So explicit intent. So this is the explicit just now, but for Android, we can also have implicit. So for example, I want to make a phone call. I have a phone number, and I say, hey, launch activity, launch application that can do phone call. I don't care whether it's the default one, whether it's the phone application made by Google or a third party that you download. In this case, I will let the OS decide, or I can let usually this will prompt a set of applications that can open this. For example, you want to open a photo, it will tell you, hey, you want to open with Google Photo, you want to open with Gallery, you want to open with Google Drive or whatever photo application, whatever application that can handle this type of thing. So in this case, it's implicit. Later, you may want to use it, especially like if you want to open, like let's say I want to send a mail to, then you can use this in your application. You don't care who's going to send the mail. So this is the explicit, where I put the activity itself, where I need to register the activity, and implicit, I mentioned just now, where I just mentioned the action that I want to perform. And I let the OS and the user decide who is going to do it. So in this case, it's action sent, so I want to send a message. So here I just put the intent action, so send. going to send something, I put the information, the text, and later it can use the SMS application or whatever application, and it will pass them the argument. And hopefully the receiver will keep my argument and it will populate in the application. For example, here, this is how I launch the phone call. If I call, if I put this tree line, it will launch the phone dialer and it will put the phone number with the parameter and you can call immediately. Yeah, this is very much for the first part of the container and activity. So this is everything you should know for launching your application and for where to put the business logic. So now I'm going to talk about the UI widget. If you want to build beautiful user interface. Screen identity. Yeah. Yeah. Is there any questions so far for the first part? I want at least one question, so. Yeah.
So you say earlier that there was involved like different flavors of Android. So do you have like test and all of them?
We don't test on all the different Android versions. So to do the testing, testing is a big topic. There's a different way of testing. You can do automation testing and you can do manual testing. So we do have automated testing. So we have like a unit testing. So we write the code that will test our code. And we have a QA, the quality assurance team, that will do manual testing, where they have a bunch of devices and they will try to execute some test cases. For example, I open the direct message and I'm able to send a message, which is like a #1 test cases for our team. And they will test this on probably the latest Android version, and probably one other device, but definitely they won't be able to verify on all the different versions. The Android actually, this is a very known issue for this fragmentation. So Android, Google has developed a lot of libraries that is supposed to work on everything, on all the different devices. So we don't need to care much when we build the application if we are using all those tools made by Google. So when I build some new feature, I don't care whether it will run on Samsung, on Huawei, on Android 13 or the earlier version, because normally the new version are already platform with some library into the older and it should work on the older version. I hope to answer your question. All right, any other questions?
About Java and Android Studio, which one does it use and which one would be more different?
When you start the project, it will ask you whether you want to use Kotlin or Java. I think by default, it will select Kotlin. So I suggest if you do to hackathon, just do Kotlin because I'm sure every company is moving to Kotlin. The Java is mostly for the legacy code, and if I write some new code, definitely will be in Kotlin. So learn Kotlin now, and it will be more future-proof than to learn Java. Yeah.
What if you unfold exactly happened to the page, happened to the activity? I mean, like I just saw this. If you want to switch activity B to activity A, you first do unfold B. What happened to me? The page just disappear, or everything on this page just stop moving?
If I'm on activity B and I have A in the stack trace and I'm going back to A, right? What happened to activity B, right?
My question is like, why we don't first start A, then post B?
Oh, why we don't? This is I'm not sure. This is something you should ask to the Google when they build the life cycle. I'm not sure, but I don't know. But normally it shouldn't be an issue. I think mostly your other activity should be able to be displayed before the previous one is fully discarded. So when you switch to another activity, you won't see a big freeze about, oh, everything stopped, and then you have the new activity. All right, any last question? Okay. So I'm going to talk about the UI, two parts for the images, and the second part is for the layout. Screen density. So as I mentioned, we have many devices, and devices have different screen density. Means that the density is the number of pixels. We call it pixel per inch, PPI. And the newer is your phone, the more expensive is your phone, and the more pixels you have per inch. And if I want to display an image that will be like 1920 pixels, if I display on a device that has a very high pixel density, the image will look very big, but also very small. So different devices will render a different way. So this is a 100 pixel image at the top on 3 different screen densities. So one is let's say low-end, high-end devices. So 100 pixels, you can see on the right one, it's much smaller, but it's still 100 pixels. This is because this is 100 pixels on the screen, and this is a very high screen density. But to make sure that my image will still be displayed at the same size on different devices, regardless of the screen density, we use TP, which is for the pixel density. So here, it's a very simple example where 1 pixel is one duplicate. So there's 2 ways of doing the image. One is to support different density. So Google, they will group the devices per category. They will say this one is a high density, H density per inch, medium, extra high, extra high, extra high. And after they stop this because they were like, how many X are we going to add with the new font? And I need to add a new variation of my image for each group. And because Google after this, they started to make their own devices. And when they make the first pixel they made was not actually in any group. It was a half group. So it was like between XX and XXX. So the first one is too small, but the other one is too big. So how to make it work? So definitely the answer is not there in the slide. The answer is vector drawable. So after this, they discover something called vector drawable. And the vector is not an image with a pixel, so it's just some vector will find the shape, and the OS will be able to scale infinitely because it's a vector. So if you want to have a device with super high density data or super large screen, whether it's like a screen in the stadium, your vector will be able to scale and to be able to be displayed without any performance, without any rendering issue. So for your hackathon, just try to use vector. There's a bunch of free vector assets that you can find for free and without any need to pay anything, and it looks very good on your application. View and view group. So this is the last part of the theory, and later, okay, it's good. So view and view group. So we have the view group means it's a collection of views. So as you mentioned, it's a group. So for example, I want to have the text and the button just now. So the text is a view, the button is a view. But I need to group it somewhere and then to say how do I arrange them with each other. And for this, we have the view group, and the view group has different layouts. So we can have like this for the view. We have the text, image, edit text. This is what we are going to use later. We are going to make a form. I have two ideas for the application that I want to build. You tell me which one you want. One is related to the GST increase. So the text view, it will look like this. So in the XML, so the first item is the name of the class. The class is called text view. So here we just mentioned text view. The OS will know that it's you know in which package you need to find the view. And I got the ID to be able to find it in my container later. And I say what's the width, what's the height, so width height. In this case, rough content means the size is the size of the content itself. And I said the text in this case is the arrow plus fragment. You can see the add string flash. This is a bit weird. This is to support internationalization because we can set. This is a reference to later we can define in different languages. So in my UI, I can just say, oh, I'm going to use this string. Later, I'm going to upload everything, and I'm going to support only two, which should be more than enough, I think, for now. And this is the image view where we can display. So in this case, the width is 40 dp. You can see it's dp, not pixel. For the reason I mentioned just now about the screen density. So 40 dp will be the same size on every devices, regardless of their screen density, whether you have the latest pixel or the cheapest one. And with so this is like the image. Where do I find the image? In the drawable folder, and the image is called icon search. Then I have an icon display. Similar for edit text. In Android, we have a bunch of basic components. To display, it can be customized. Mostly, it depends what you want to do for your hackathon. Most components, basic components like text, image, input, some button, checkbox, are already there. If you want to use some custom one, people create their own, and you can find on GitHub some very nice checkbox or some other component. You can find it, or you can even build your own. Alert dialog. This is another Android component. This is not really inside the UI. It's a different stuff that we can use, so we can display some alerts. So in this case, they are using a filter pattern where we set the title, we set the message, and then at the end, what we want to do when we press OK, not OK, and display it. View group. For now, I have my text, I have my image. I create the view group. I have different view group. I have the frame layout, linear layout, relative layout, and constraint layout. Mostly today we are going to use the latest one, the constraint layout. Frame layout is basically everything I put there will be displayed on top of each other. So we need to set the where I want it on the screen in a different way. So defining the margin and something. So in this case, like in my frame layout, after 3 views, the view is just like a square with the background. So they are all stacked on top of each other. Linear layout, they are like one below each other. Depends what's the orientation, so it can be horizontal or vertical. So in this case, I have like a horizontal and vertical. So my 3 views are like just below each other. So if you have like a form where you have like a first name, last name, email, and submit, this can be a very simple linear layout with all the different input components with the button at the end, and your UI will be built like this. Yeah, this basically can be like an input form if you have some imagination. Relative layout, this is not very well used, where we can define stuff compared to each other. So I'm not going to talk much about this, but eventually we can use it. We define here like, oh, I want this related to this one. It's very complicated to use, so don't use this one. And for more complex, at the end, when we have a lot of relative layout, we can have like a nested relative layout, and it can very quickly look like something like on the right, which is not good. And this comes with a lot of performance issue to render because you need to understand who is relative to which one. For Android, they come up with a new way, which is the constraint layout. So the problem with the performance issue is the more nested component we are, the longer time it will take to render because they will need to measure each component. And if the size of the child is different, they will need to remeasure the parent. And you can have like multiple paths about like measuring the layout. So the more complex is your layout and the more concerned you will be related to the performance. And the more you should try to flatten your hierarchy, but that will be only if you start with some very complex layout or some layout with a lot of different components. And to solve this, for example, we have this very beautiful UI with a lot of button text and something. We can build constraint layout means that we constrain it's just a flat hierarchy where all the items are constrained related to each other, and this there's a constraint solver algorithm that will compute everything at once, and after that's it. So this is a much more simple way of rendering. So that's how I'm going to build with the content layout. So the content layout can go from the one on the left to the one on the right, which is much more efficient, much more easy to understand, and it's just basically a flat hierarchy. So yeah, constraint layout can with a lot of different features. We can like chain, we can group, we can like set some barrier and stuff. So it depends. I suggest for your hackathon, if you do the Android app, you can just use constraint layout for everything, and you should be able to scale it, and it will work for any change you will be doing along the way. So UI recap, we have the screen density that we need to care. So use vector drawer for images, and put all the dimension in GP, don't use pixel. We don't use the pixel metric measurement for mobile. And we have views, and the views are inside the view group. And there's much more thing to cover for Android. We have like to show the list, to show animation, networking, and testing. Today I'm only covering basic container UI. After you have this, later you can build any application, and you can find a way to add some network code, parse the result, and display some information. And that's it for the theory. And yeah, this is exactly 1 hour, which means that I have 1 hour of full live coding. Yeah, so first thanks for reaching this 1 hour milestone. Hope you're still listening. So is there any questions so far? Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can even do nested constraint layout, which is a constraint layout supposed to have like a flattened hierarchy, but you can, but you may have some performance issue. Any question on the theory side for this part? All right, I have one question. So who has the Android Studio and is going to do at the same time? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, let's try to do it. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you take a 5 minutes break, please, and then to toilet or some of you are a bit shy, maybe you can ask questions now.
Okay, I'll stay there. Let's take 5 minutes break.
Yeah.
And please come back later.
Yeah.
Hi guys, if you haven't taken the food, there's the food outside. So please feel free to take it. Yeah, there was just a question about the Android vector images sent as snippet. Just take a break to think about this a bit. Um, so there were like two ways of displaying the images. One is we define the image, like we define the pixel. So in this case, like it's a black and white image, so the pixel will be like 0, 1 for the different color. But of course, this will not scale very well. And the second way is doing a vector. So in this case, we draw a cross, and it will say move to the point, so it gives the coordinate, move to the point 6.4, 6.4, and then draw a line until this position, then move to this position and draw a line. And in this case, I have a cross that will be displayed. And because I only use like coordinate, it will work regardless of the size of the canvas. If I display on a very small screen or on a very, very large screen, the cross will still be a cross and it will be displayed. So the vector, we have like move, line, and we can draw curve, and we can close, which means that we will see the path, and that's it. So we can, with only this draw line and move and draw curve, we can do any images. Actually, I think if I do like oh, this is the usually Wikipedia is really a lot of yeah, this is not the, this is the vector. So in this case, uh, this image actually has a code inside, and they will define like move to this position, move to that position. So this Wikipedia image here, I can scale it and I can print it on a very very large image without any rendering issue. Because in this case they don't say like hey, this picture is this color, but they say like there's like this shape and this shape and this shape. So I grow my canvas and I can still draw it perfectly. So this is the LED, and later I can import this inside my application and we will convert it to Android Vector, which is a light version of SVG for performance issue. Should we continue?
Any of your friends not back? One end is it? Another.
Okay, yes.
What else is not there yet? With your friends? If not, then yeah, I think we can start with
All right, so thanks for still being here. So the second part is a bit more freestyle, where I have nothing much planned. Actually, I have two ideas for the application. The first one, something I say like this, very simple. It calculates the tip percentage of amount. Yeah, maybe you expect something more fun. But the second thing, actually, I got an idea after this is since they increased the GST from 7 to 8%, I think, and it's going to increase to 9% next year. I wanted to build an application where you set a number, a set amount, then you can put between 8 or 9%, and it will tell you the final amount. So today you can see like with 8% and tomorrow with 9%, how much it cost. So we can just build like this with the input, just a switch to switch between 8 and 9, submit button, and text to display the result, which is like a bit like inspired from this. So in case you have any other idea, you can let me know, but I should be able to do it in 30 minutes. So here I am my Android Studio. So I just I create a new project, and I have a few templates here. So I'm going to use the empty activity. If you have the Android Studio, you can try to follow at the same time. And if you're lost, you can raise your hand and tell me. I'll stop if it's too fast. So I'll can I yeah. So here I define my name, my package name, save location. I can define my language Java or Kotlin. By default, Kotlin, I keep it as Kotlin. And I can define which minimum version. This is linked to the fragmentation. It's how far I want to support my version. And they say, oh, early is good. And right now, the latest version is Android 13, which is not even shown here. So if I want to support only Android 12, means I'm going to support only 13% of the user, which is not great. And the more further version I go, and the more user I will need to support, but also the more problem I'm going to get. So I'm going to start at Android 5, which will be more than enough. So I just started at Android 5, and we will work for 98.8%. So if my code is able to compile, it should work for almost 99% of the user, which is more than enough. And I think because it's Android 5 minimum, so I think that's enough. I press finish, and here it's within the project. Yeah, so I have my view here. I can define the project of Android. I just put the project view. And here I have my folders, and I have the code here. The main activity, my main container, and I just call set contain view, and I have my layout. So where do I find all these files in the view tree? So I have my .gradle.idea. This is like from hidden folder. We don't care about this. We have the app module, which is the main module. Library, I want to include some library, so right now it's empty, so I will just remove it. But I have the source folder, I have the main Android test and test is for if I want to write automation test. Android test, the automation test will run on Android devices, so it will be very slow, so I can test everything. And the test folder is for unit test, so you can run on my laptop everything. Main, I have Java resources and read manifest. Remember the manifest where I mentioned all my capability of my application. So in this case, I have the launcher. My application is called my application. So I'm going to rename my application, and I call it so this will be the name of my application, and I have the icon in this case with the IC launcher. So you can see that there is a XML version, which is this is my application icon. So I can change this image to another icon. And I have my activity. This is the main activity, so it's this one, which does set the UI. And I define the intent. The intent is like when do I start this, and this is the intent for the OS. It will tell the launcher, hey.
Can you increase the size of the
Like this. More. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why this is. Okay. So yeah, and I define that the activity that needs to be done for the launcher. So I already have the application here, and I can go to the UI, and the UI just have a hello world text right in the middle. So I can see. So this is my it's a constraint layout. So it's the view group, the container, which just a text view, and the text is hello world. So I can set up the simulator with I already have the simulator here. So in the device manager on the right side, you can create a device. You can select from template, so it will look like it will emulate like the Pixel 4. And then you can select on which version you want your simulator to run, and then you will create. So in this case, I already created it, so I'm going to press play, and it doesn't work because I already launched it. So this is my device. The device here. This is the actual Android, almost real. So in this case here, I press play, and it's going to compile my application. It's just a template, the basic one. And after a while, just install it, and this is my hello world. You can see the title already changed to the GST calculator, which is the application name. If you use the application name here, and I should be able to find it, which is this one here. And you can see the name is the one I put in the Android manifest. I can change the icon, but it's quite boring, so I'm not going to do that now. So I want to build the UI that I mentioned. And later we can see how we can collect the information from the UI inside the container. So I'm going to build my UI. So here I have the two parts. I have the code and I have the preview. So if I delete the code, here, the preview is also updated. So what did I say just now? I say I want maybe I want like a title at the top. So the title will say like please enter the amount. So I'm going to add input. It's probably a number with decimal. So this is the input, and this is the constraint layout. So I can use this. You will actually, you want to constrain your layout, so you need to constrain from the top and from the side. And in this case, you see it's unlucky because it tells you, hey, there's like a very big warning just to tell you that this has no constraint. So it will just like appear anywhere on the screen, which is not ideal. Like you should put some constraint. So it's okay. So for this text, I'm going to constrain it on the right side. So now if I push all the way, but if I constrain it also on the right side, it's going to be on the center. But I can also move it from right to left. So I can just keep it on the center and constrain it at the top. I just move it a bit below, like 56 dB. So in this case, on any screen, it will be center and 56 dB from the top for this text. And for this, I'm going to do also the same. I constrain it on the right and the side, and I just put it below. I just move it a bit so it's not, they are not each other. So now I have a input. So if I compile, you can see I'm not writing any code. If I compile, yeah, this is my application here, which is the text view, and you can see here, this is the input. And because I say this is it's the edit text, and edit text can be anything. It can be a text, it can be email, password, number. Here I define the input type. We define immediately because in the menu I select number decimal. So you already select number decimal in the input type. So the Android knows that hey, this input is only for numbers with decimal. So when I start on the input text, the keyboard only asks me to input numbers because in this case it's only for decimal. If I put like password, it will automatically put like dot instead of the letter. If I put email, it will show me the key directly on the keyboard. So this is how I can control, I can make the keyboard a bit more context aware. So in this case, if I type with my keyboard the letter, it won't accept it. It doesn't work. But if I use the letter, it will use it. So in this case, it will only accept numbers done automatically by the system. So this is the Android SDK component, which is called edit text. And on top I have the text view. So this is my amount I'm going to put here. So I don't know where this is from. And I'm going to put a switch button. So I have a bunch of widgets here, and I only use I can use this switch button, which that is better. So I'm going to drag and drop, and the switch, you look at this. I will have a text, so I'm going to remove the text. And this is just a basic switch, so later I can toggle, and I'm going to put some text on each side. And I mentioned this is for the which one is, so this one I will put at 9%, and this one I will put at 8%. So I'm going to put this below my one, so it will be center related to this one. And I'm going to play it much closer and will be there. And same for this one. I'm not very good at designing, so yeah, it's everything is not centered, but it's okay. So here I have my I have a title. I can put like the amount. So my title I will just use it here, and I will say like this and the amount. A little bit content with this. It will just be below. So it's like a hint about the input. You say please enter the amount. I'm going to put some numbers, and I have like the total 8 or 9%. And I just put one text view for the results, which will be this one. So here it will be the results, and I need one button for, and I will say template. So that's pretty much it for my UI. So if I combine it, I think I forgot to add many constraints. So yeah, I did not add for the buttons. So I'm going to add now. So the button will be below this one, and this one is also not constrained. So I just put it also below the button. And now if I combine it, it should look like the preview. Yeah, there's just one problem with the input. I think that should be okay. Okay, so you can play with the constraint layout and try to change the constraint until it works, until it looks like how it should look. Sometimes we cannot make it exactly how the designer wanted, and we say that, hey, this is good enough, right? So in this case, okay, in this case, it's very not so good. Not sure what's the name of effort for the constraint on the side. So maybe if I add, okay, normally the constraint needs to be like on each side, top, bottom, and right, left. Yeah, not so bad. Not going to spend too much time on it because it's just like a playing with the UI editor. So I think that's more than enough for now. So I can already interact with this. I have the total, I have like a on-off, 8-9%, and I have a calculate button that doesn't do anything yet, and I have the result which can be updated later. So now I have my basic UI, and I need to access I need to find what is the value of my UI and how do I interact with my UI from the container. Any questions so far on the UI building that I've done just now? No question on the UI? Okay, so I'm going back to the main activity. So the main activity, I just say that, hey, I set this layout. So my layout is now is it's the one that is shown here. So I want to access like what is the value. Now let me start with the button. I want to do something when I click on the button. So how do I find my button? My button here, if I look at the code, this button here, which is a button, there is an ID, and the ID name is button. So I will take this ID and I'll link back to the main activity, and I want to find the view, and I want to find the view with the ID, and because at Google, they're very smart engineers. To find the view by ID, they call it find view by ID. So I'm going to find this view with the ID. So I use R. I'm not going to talk much about R, but these two access is important. and I have ID. This is all the ID, and I have button and all my different techniques. So now I found my view, and what's my view type in the type. This definitely could be something that extends Android view. And here is the button. And if I look at what it does, this is from Android widget. So all view, all Android widget. And the first is called button. And it extends text view. So a button is like an extension of the text, which is like this. So in this case, the type is button from Android widget. Android widget button here is this button, it's the one account, and it's the package Android widget button. So I can create a variable out of this, and this is my button. I can call it button view. And here I found from the container I found my button on my view. So now I have an instance of the button class. So I have instance of this. It's like somewhere when they pass the XML, they will say, oh, you want a button. The OS will call a new button. You will create an instance, and you will store it somewhere, and I can find it with the view by ID. So here I have the button, and I can do a lot of things. I can check is clickable, set on click listener. I can find the ID. I can change the background. I can set accessibility. There's a lot of things that I can interact with. But I'm only interested in one thing, is the on click listener. So I want to set a listener for when I click. So I'm calling set on click listener. So I listen to the on click. This is setting a callback. So in this case, we will register on click. So this is just a very simple interface. We just have one method on click. So it's a callback. So when I'm going to press this button, it's going to call my code, and I'm going to say like, hey, I want to do this. So in this case, here the code execution flow will be like on create. Remember, this is the life cycle. I only care about the on create for now. I set the content view. I set the main activity. Then we will continue the execution with sequential. We will try to find the view by ID, the button, find the button, and I'm going to register on click listener. And it's going to continue executing the code here. And only if I interact with the UI, if I press the button, the code here will be called only on click. And I can try to display some element. One Android element is called toast. So this method make text. So we want some context. Context is like what is the container. So in this case, actually the activity is the context. But it doesn't matter here. Any context is fine. I just call base context. You don't need to care about this. And so the parameter is the text and the duration. So the text, I just say, and the duration, it will be, I can have a long or short. I will just short, and then I will need to show it. So hopefully now, if I combine, and if I press calculate, I should have a toast that's showing, and it shouldn't crash. So no cross. And yeah, this is how toast looks like. It's using the icon that I'm using for my application, which is the default one, and it's displaying my text that I define the song. So now when I press the one click, I want to get what the amount I put here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, I'm going to find the view by ID of my AD text. So this is for the AD text, and it's the ID. And what is the ID after here? So I need to go back to my UI, and if I look at the AD text, so the ID I haven't modified it, but it's called edit text number decimal. I can actually rename it. Maybe I can call it like let's call it like input. Input. Yeah, so this is my ID of my edit text. So the edit text is this component, and here I found with the ID. And I can create a variable. Can create variable from here. Yeah, and this will be my edit text. And similar as the button, edit text here has a lot of different things inside. And I can access what is the value that is displayed. So I'm going to call in my, after I call the on click, I want to see what's the value that's showing here. So in my on click callback, I will call edit text. And I have a lot of things. So what is the text that is showing? So probably the text is something called get text. So obviously there's a text, which is the editable, and I can call two strings. So this is the input as a string. And because I want to do number calculation, I need to convert this string into int. So Java is there's different type of language like dynamic, static, statically typed language, and so on. So this is a strong type, so means that if I have a string, if I want to convert it, I need to somehow pass the string into int. So one of the good things of using Kotlin is it comes with a lot of handy tools to do this kind of thing. So I can call like tool, and there's like a too long, and in this case, I'm going to format it like a two, maybe just two long should be enough. If I call two int as a maximum limit, right, 2 billion something. So if your amount you call is more than 2 billion, data is going to go up. For too long, I think it should be more than enough. And because I put the input type for the OS to be only decimal, I'm not, the OS will reject adding the character. So by right, this string to number conversion shouldn't cause any issue because the input will be already filtering all the characters. But eventually, if you manage to put some unwanted character, or I don't know if I can put, no, I can only put one decimal. Yeah, normally this should always be a number that can be converted. So this is my number. After I press the, so this is the input. This is my input as well. So in this case here, just to verify, I can put in my first the variable, the input, and I can verify that when I press calculate, the number should be showing the one I input. And what about if I press now, because I didn't put any number, so the number is new, right? So if I press, obviously it crashed. So this is the new label. So one of other good things with Kotlin is that we can handle nullability pretty well. So with a question mark. So in this case, I don't know why it's not telling me that it's label. But I can call get text, and I can put some question marks here, and I can put this is edit text. Question mark means that if it's not empty, then I'll continue and do this. I call to string, and then if this is also not new, then I'll call too long. And at the end, if all of this at some point is new, then you call 0, or just to make sure, I can put like a -1. So in this case, if I don't put anything and I calculate, oh, okay, it doesn't handle the okay, never mind. Okay, not sure what. Let me take the stack trace then. So this is one other thing is that when the application crash, we need to see what's crash reason. So we have this thing called the log tab. So at the bottom I have some menu. And here I can access my simulator and I have like a debug application, and it is in my application. And I can check what's the log. The application will log many things even if you don't put any log. The OS like to log everything. So in this case, it will tell you, oh, the activity created, this and that. Most of this, we don't care. So I'm taking those for the reward. And then because it's scratching, it's printing the reward here. And it's a number format exception. So yeah, it cannot convert. Oh, it's actually not new, it's an empty string. So it's just that you cannot convert the empty string to a number. So it's okay, I can handle this later. I'm not going to handle the empty string for now. So I'm going to put the number inside the input. And if I go 1, 2, 3, if I calculate, yeah, it's showing 1, 2, 3. So in this case, what did I do so far? I built the UI with text view, edit text, a switch, a button. I'm able to set on-click listener for my button. I'm able to do some custom code when I press the button. I'm able to get some information from the user at any point of time. In this case, I can get the number that is set in the input. So now I have this number, and I just need to get the switch value. So the switch value, this is another component. So I'm going to find UI ID again. Everything is always the same thing. You realize when you start the development, it's a bit, there's many things. And after 10 or 15 minutes, you realize that it's actually always the same thing. And it will be always the same thing for your entire life unless you switch to another branch of development. But usually it's very easy, and you just need to read the code. You want to find a view by ID, it's called find view by ID. You want to set listener, it's called set listener. Some people sometimes ask me that, how can you read, how can you understand the code? I just say you just need to read. You read, it's, everything is there. So in this case, I have to switch here and it's called switch 1. So I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it DSC switch. And there's some warning here. They say you should use another switch. It's okay. I can use the other one, which is called switch compat. So Android has the basic Android component. For example, this one is the switch. But as I mentioned, because of the fragmentation, to backward some functionality, there's something called app compat library, which will backward many components. And in this case, it tells me that, hey, you're using the switch from the Android SDK, but it can cause some issue on lower device, or lower device may not have those new functionalities. So for better backward compatibility, it's better if you use the switch compat, which is okay. So it's from the app compat library here. For me, it doesn't change much here. So it's okay. I'm just gonna use this one, and let's yeah. So I'm going to call the SADSC switch, right? And the type is the switch compat. So I do the import, and I'm just renaming switch compat. So I can group all my variables here. So I have my tree button, my on-click listener, and yeah, so switch compat. So what's the information I want to get from the switch? I just want to know whether it's on left or right. In this case, it's not, normally it's for like on, off, but it doesn't matter. I'm like, just from the UI display here. So I have like, I can set the text, I can set the ID company. So I'm not sure what's the value to check. Um, so this is okay. So the switch will have a capability to tell you whether it's toggle or not toggle. And to be honest, I don't know what's the name of this. So I don't know everything obviously, and I haven't used this component for a while. So usually what you do, you just go to Stack Overflow and how to check if a switch on Android is on or not. And Stack Overflow will tell you the answer. And I have like almost 10 years of development and I'm doing this every day. So it's okay. I mean, everyone is doing that. So Stack Overflow is the answer of everything and you will still have, or maybe now you can ask ChatGPT, I'm not sure. I have an account, you can try later. I'm sure it will tell you the answer. So just for now, I will just take I will just use this enable or at the yeah, I just use this enable. I'm sure it's not it's not the correct one because enable is this like whether you can click on it. It's okay, I can just change it later. It's just to be able to continue on. So I have the is enabled now, so I can just check like what is the percentage. So it will be like either 8 or 9%. So if enabled, it will be 8. Otherwise, it will be 9. Actually, it's the other way around because 9 is on the right side. So it will be 9 or 8. So this will be my multiplication value. So it will be my yes rate. So based on the switch, I'm going to get the rate, whether it's 8 or 9%. I can also try to retrieve from the UI, but that will be a very UI-oriented application. Ultimately, I can define the rate here and populate my UI with the left with 8 and 9 instead of having it outputted in the UI. So it's up to you when you build the application, how do you want to when you want to try your business logic, how do you want to populate your information to the UI? And how do you want to get the information to the UI? Any questions so far? Anyone is doing it at the same time or no? Yeah. So when I build my application here, in my I have a few folders here that I haven't talked about. I have the build and I have the settings. So the settings here is the settings of my project where I define like what's the different plugin I want to use for my Android Studio for my application. So in this case, I define like the repository, like where do I find the dependency. One thing I haven't talked about is like how do I add dependency to my project. For example, later if I want to add some network requests, I need to, let's say I want to use this library from GitHub. How do I include it in my project? So in my app module, I have a build.gradle. So here I define like what's the configuration of my application. So in this case here, I say that it's an Android application and it's on Kotlin. So I need to tell the compiler. The compiler will say, oh, okay, you want to build an Android application module with Kotlin. Okay, then you will run the Kotlin compiler. I'm using the compile SDK 32, which is the latest one, and I have like application, the minimum SDK one I set up when I created, the one I said I supported for 98%. So I can change it here, and I have some other stuff. And at the end, we have the dependency here. And the dependency, you already added a few dependency, which is the Android X, Android X, Android X. Those are the application compat library. And because most application actually, all application will use it, we actually include the dependency by default. So for the switch, I can use the one for the Android SDK, but I can use the one from this dependency, which is the is a library that is built for backward compatibility to remove you about all the bottleneck and all the problems from running your application on lower end device or on older version. So if you include the dependency here, you will be able to use all the components from this library. And one of these components is the switch compat. So it's like another version, and it's a re-implementation of the switch, but fixing some bugs that, for example, let's say Android 9 has a bug of the switch. Let's say the switch is going to work on Android 9 for some reason. They will do some workaround, and they will ship this workaround inside this app compat library. And here I'm using the switch compat, and if I go to the code, I can see that it's inside Android app compat widget. And if I look at where is this source located, because I can see the source code, I can see that it's inside external library, and I cannot do this, but this is all my library and the app compat, Android app compat, so this is my dependency, and the dependency is a jar, so it's a compiled set of class, and my switch compat is somewhere in the middle, it's there. And because Android is, and the library are open source, I can see the source. Otherwise, I'm just will try to decompile, but usually it's not good. And this is the re-implementation for backward compatibility that is provided by Google. It's an official library. So even for text view and AT text, if I look at the text view, there's a app compat. There's an app compat AT text and there's an app compat text view. So I can also use app compat text view here. I can use app compat for almost everything. They re-implemented almost everything. Yeah. Does it answer your question? Any other questions so far? Okay. Yeah. How do I do that? Yeah. So if this is my code, right? And actually here, if I press here, you see it press on red bubble here. And if I press the bubble here, this is the breakpoint. So I'm going to use the debugger. So because I have my application that is running here, let's say it's crashing, and I want to debug why it's crashing. So I'm going to attach the debugger. So I'm going to press this button here at the top, attach debugger, and I put the breakpoint here in the on page. So I attach the debugger, we found it, my application is debuggable. I press OK. And so far nothing happened. But you see when I press calculate, boom, it stopped here. And you haven't crashed it on. And this is my debugger. And here I can check my AD text, and I can try to debug and check what's the different value here. And I can do like a next or previous one. So I can set the breakpoint, attach the debugger, and it will stop whenever I attach. So here it stops just the question. And now it's the play. And we only have 10 more minutes. Any more questions? I can just finish it with just setting the text back, but I think you got the point. So if there's any question, I can take the question. Okay. Let me know if there's any question. So I'll just finish it with the just already saying. So I'm going to find the last text view, which I'm not going to use. So this is the text view. So I'm going to find the text view 4, which is the latest text view at the end, and the text will be the input times GST rate, and because it's this I should divide by 100, right? Because it's a percentage. And this is the text, so I'm going to convert it to text. And I don't need to close anymore. yeah, normally when I run right now, if I put 100 and I put like a 8%, actually it's illegal. So it will be like this, and if I calculate, in this case, it shows 0. And why it shows 0? I can debug it. So I enter the debugger, I press calculate, and I go to the next. Input is 100, so input is okay. If enable is true, and then my GSP rate will be 8 divided by 100, which should be 0. Why is it 0? It's because I'm dividing it by, I'm having a int plot error. So just to solve this, I'm just going to, instead of using int, I'm going to use float. Is just from a Java typing issue, and just connect it here. So this issue open, hopefully. So open like 100. I calculate an 8 is 9. So 9% of 100 is 9. So I just need to sum this with the input, because I'm adding the rate on top of it. So if I got 100 and if I select 9, it's 9. 9.01. Not sure what's going on. And again, I can attach the debugger. And I'm not very good at math. I think I heard the student in Singapore, the #1 in math, at the PISA ranking. I think in France we are like average country, like a developed country. So yeah, but it's okay to do computer science. So here I can just evaluate this, which is 109. So it's okay. And means that it's just some text formatting issue. So maybe this is 109. Yeah, I just ran it one last time. So in this case, I only create a single activity. Yeah, in this case, it's showing 109, which means that 100%. The switch doesn't work because I don't know exactly what's the is enable method exactly, but that is clear. Can look at can write it as well. So this is the basic of the Android application. I have my activity, my container. So I register in the manifest. It's going to launch my main activity. It's calling on create. I set the view. I define all my view using content layout in the XML. I set the most important is to set the ID, because with the ID I'm going to find from my container, from the activity. And I use find by ID for all my components. And from there, I use the method inside the class to interact with it, set the object, retrieve the value, and change the text on the screen. Any question? First of all, I think it's I'll stop here because this is pretty much done. I didn't think I will reach this one. So I think thanks for listening. If there's any more question, I'll take the question.